being said, I'm going to hand it over to Andre and get things started with today's section.
Thank you, Shelley. So, a few weeks ago, I read a study by Bitkom, and that's a German business association, on the topic of economic protection. And the study was published last year. About 1,000 contacts from companies had taken part in the study and were asked, among other things, whether they would agree with the statement that cyber attacks threaten their economic existence. And around 9% of the participants agreed with that statement in 2021. And I find it interesting that in 2022, 1 year later, 45% of the participants now agreed with this statement. So almost every second respondent is aware that IT security is an enormously important issue. And in a conversation with a colleague about this topic, I was referred to a report on a study from the year 2021. It was about the current attacks on mission-critical SAP applications at that time. And one finding from that study startled me so much that I wanted to share it with you right now. So, new unprotected SAP applications deployed in cloud or infrastructure as a service environments are discovered and attacked in less than 3 hours on average after deployment. And while, of course, you can clearly from the studies see from the studies and also from the daily news that the topic of IT security and therefore the topic of security monitoring is enormously important, you and I know that there are simply many different reasons not to already have a security monitoring system in every company today. And today I will talk about my experiences from numerous projects, highlight some challenges and present some approaches to solving them. And the focus in the examples will always be on centralized security monitoring, but you can also implement all approaches decentrally. So if you have any questions during this session, you have the possibility to put them into the question box and I will be happy to answer them afterwards. So, why should I use Xiting security monitoring solution? First of all, it may be a hidden feature for you. Many customers already have a comprehensive license for the tools of the Xiting Authorizations Management Suite, and often one of the two tools I will show you today, the Security Architect, is already included in the license and is just not used yet. And if that's the case for you, I would be happy if this would change after today's session. The Security Architect is a very powerful tool to implement a sustainable security monitoring in your landscape. The second point is that the implementation of a basic setup is possible in a relatively short time. And because I don't have to install another IT or SAP system, but only have to carry out some basic configuration, and then I can use the tool very quickly. And so results can be seen within a first short workshop, for example. Both tools I'm going to introduce to you today come with an extensive template already built in, or with different templates already built in. So you can start testing your systems right after setup. You don't have to maintain the rule sets by yourself, and you can use the examples and the templates we deliver. Despite the delivered rule sets, there are always 1 or 2 individual screws that need to be turned to ensure that the tool really fits your company. And for this purpose, there are numerous customizing options that you can use. What can you take away today? Regardless of whether you are attending today because your focus is on Xiting's products, or if your focus is on security monitoring and therefore on security compliance, I will introduce you to two tools today that you can use for your work. One is the Security Architect, and the other will be the SIEM connector. For those of you who don't know us yet, I would like to say a few words about Xiting. Founded in Switzerland in 2008, and yeah, meanwhile grown to a team of more than 120 colleagues with employees from Germany, the United Kingdom, United States, and Romania. We are an SAP Gold partner, and this is based, among other things, on the fact that all consultants are certified by SAP. Our applications such as the Xiting Authorizations Management Suite or Xiting Central Workflows are also certified for integration with SAP S/4HANA and S/4HANA Cloud. And obviously today we will talk about security monitoring, but we also have expertise in the areas of governance and compliance, authorizations management, or identity access management. So if you have any questions regarding other security related topics, feel free to contact us. Yeah, a few words about me. My name is André Tenmus. I'm 38 years old, security consultant and trainer at Xiting. And in my projects, I have a strong focus on the creation of technical concepts and their realization in customer landscapes. And I've been working in the SAP security environment for about 12 years now. And today I'm going to share some of my experiences and approaches from various security monitoring implementations with you. You will certainly remember that I spoke at the beginning about a study by Bitkom that was published last year. And the same study showed that the number of cyber attacks increased for around 84% of the companies surveyed between 2021 and 2022. And in fact, the attacks increased sharply for 39% of the respondents. And from my conversations with IT managers and IT experts, I also perceive an increased attention to the issue of IT security in the recent years. And the funny thing is, the hurdles I often talk about with customers are always very similar. So, for example, one of the challenges, the most frequently mentioned point, is the lack of know-how and resources. As a rule, for example, very capable people usually work in the departments that operate the SAP systems, and they are expected to have expert knowledge, but at the same time, they are always expected to have an overview of the big picture. And in addition, the employees usually work on a wide variety of projects at the same time, since the SAP systems as a central system often have interfaces to other systems or to other topics. And if I'm honest with myself, I cannot send these employees to the next training for every new topic. So as a rule, therefore, qualification usually takes place through learning on the job. And in our projects, we therefore attach great importance to passing on the knowledge required for implementing the monitoring concepts to our internal contacts as well. Another, I would say major challenge mentioned in the interviews is that projects to connect SAP systems to a SIEM system are usually more difficult than initially assumed. There are two main reasons for this. The first reason is that it often involves different teams, and a team from SAP operations with incredibly specific SAP knowledge and a team from SIEM which with a specific SIEM knowledge. If the SAP team is told now, hey guys, this is a service via which the SIEM system would like to consume the logs, then we already have the second reason here. An incredible amount of logging can be done within the SAP systems, but there are no proper interfaces for exporting the log data to the other systems. And in addition to that, the different logs within the SAP systems would have to be queried in different ways, and each have their own structure, for example. Yeah. Other frequently mentioned topics are, for example, anticipatory action or a proactive security concept, and the regularly changing, often also international legal requirements. Basically, if there are no processes in place to ensure that the security concept in your SAP system is always up to date, then it will become increasingly difficult to guarantee the security of the system in the medium term. And the mere remediation of findings from annual audits by auditors is also a type of security concept, but it is very reactive and simply no longer, I would say no longer appropriate to the current situation. And especially for critical IT infrastructures, at least in Germany, there is now a legal obligation to introduce an attack detection system. And attack detection system here means, for example, misuse detection or anomaly detection. And the law states that the system for attack detection should correspond to the so-called state of the art. And I would like to go into more detail on the state of the art point here. Perhaps, perhaps some of you remember a time years ago when SAP All was good style for administrators. And when I was dealing with SAP security during that time, one of my tasks was to identify a handful of basic settings that then became my own defaults. For example, I remember many discussions about the minimum length of the supposedly secure passwords and the reasonable validity periods for passwords. And my source of information here was usually various guides and various posts on various blogs. And checking the defaults was usually done irregularly because of the enormous manual effort involved. Over time, various tools were established to monitor the different logs, log files and settings. And I remember here scheduled jobs to inform about the allocation of SAP All via email, for example. Cautiously, the security audit log was also used more and more, and always keeping in mind that only really critical things should be logged. But again, it was usually the case that monitoring only took place whenever the administrator did it manually and step by step in each individual system. Later, tools for central monitoring of log files and settings represented some kind of real innovation. And important products here include, for example, the configuration validation, which is available on SAP Solution Manager, or the security architect, which we are constantly expanding for precisely this purpose, among others. And basically, I initially have to teach the tool my specifications And then, depending on the interval of the checks, I am automatically informed as soon as one of the specifications is no longer met. So I get for example, I get an email as soon as the compliance is breached. And state of the art today is real-time security monitoring. In contrast to my compliance monitoring, the focus here is not on detecting violations of defined specifications, but on alerting as quickly as possible in the event of an anomaly or a risk. And the detection is usually done by complex logical links between events in the logs. And I would like to explicitly mention here that this is in no way intended to replace the compliance monitoring. The real-time monitoring part is rather a logical supplement to be able to react promptly to that issue. So today, state of the art means that I have a central monitoring of my SAP systems to be able to check the requirements regularly and above all with minimal effort. And I also have the option here to vary the flight altitude. For example, I have a dashboard for overview and detailed views for a more detailed analysis. And the time requirement for the remediation here can usually be described on the left side for the central monitoring as timely. So the remediation is not that urgent usually. And state of the art simultaneously means implementing a system for immediate attack detection. And usually central SIEM systems, such as, for example, Splunk or Microsoft Sentinel, are used for this purpose. So we have log data from a wide variety of sources, which is collected and normalized here in the SIEM systems. And immediately with the transmission of the events, a threat analysis usually takes place. So with regard to the detection of risks in SAP systems, I have often heard customer feedbacks here that it is particularly difficult for a SIEM team to define, for example, meaningful correlations from the numerous SAP logs and events. And yeah, don't be blinded here by buzzwords like artificial intelligence in the SIEM tools. In the end, it is regularly the experts from the SAP team who have to define the rules for the detection of the threats. Yeah, what tools do we offer, and what does the architecture look like, for example, in your landscape? The focus is on the central system on which the security architect and the SIEM connector are installed with the transport. And the installation can be done here on a system of your choice. Only the release level of the central system should be as current as possible. And we have the possibility to connect ABAP systems as well as HANA and Java systems to the security architect in order to monitor the system centrally. And in both security architect and the SIEM connector, usually little customizing is required for a basic, at least for a basic deployment. And as both tools come with predefined checks already in place. And on the one hand, this enables a proof of concept setup with minimal effort. And on the other hand, it provides, I think a good starting point for optimizing your own rule sets. And I can either alert about the events and findings with the integrated email interface, email adapter, or I can set up a direct dispatched to the SIEM system via the SIEM connector. And starting with the upcoming Service Pack 18, the SIEM connector also includes the ability to perform rule-based threat analysis. And this means that log lines will be checked for correlations using complex rules. And I go into some more examples in a moment, but one of the advantages of defining these rules in the SAP team is that the SAP team usually can define them. They have the necessary skills for that. And I can define myself whether all logs or events plus alarms should be sent to the SIEM system or only my alarms. And since numerous SIEM systems have to be licensed depending on the data transferred to the systems, I also have the opportunity to save licensing costs here if I only forward or transfer the qualified messages to the SIEM system. So in summary, I would say the security architect is the tool to implement the comprehensive centralized compliance monitoring, and the SIEM connector ensures the real-time transfer of logs and events to the SIEM system. And since Service Pack 18, the SIEM connector offers a rule engine that allows me to define complex scenarios if I don't want to rely solely on the threat detections already delivered. How can I now imagine the whole thing in practice? When we look at an SAP system, we see numerous security relevant tables and logs, and it takes usually an enormous amount of time and effort to search for the needle in the haystack here. And after the basic setup of the security architect and the SIEM connector, I can now select the checks that are relevant to me. And then the checks are scheduled via a background job, and while the less time critical or simply time intensive checks are run at longer intervals via the security architect, the SIEM connector checks run continuously all of the time, 24/7. And this ensures that logs in particular are also evaluated immediately and transferred to the SIEM system. Just to give you an example, a check for possibly open SU25 processing steps, for example, is really not time critical and is therefore usually performed in the security architect. But a check, however, for a disabled authorization check in the SU24 should become known immediately. And the check can be permanently scheduled here via the SIEM connector. And you will then be informed directly if someone disables an authorization check. And if compliance violations are found during the evaluation, then I first receive an overview over the findings in the security architect. However, I can jump to a detailed view here and perform a deeper analysis. I will show that later in the demo. And if threats are found during the evaluation, then these are immediately transmitted to the SIEM system as an alert. And the important thing here is that we deliver numerous checks and threat rules already, so you can get an overview of your landscape yourself in no time. However, both tools, for example, the security architect and the SIEM connector, offer numerous possibilities for customization to your requirements here. And the goal usually is to create a security monitoring concept that fits your needs. So that's enough theory for now. I will now introduce you to the two tools in a little more detail. Let me just get the right screen. Yeah. So the first tool is the Security Architect. And here we first have to create a document for our project landscape. And we are talking about a document here because with the help of the tool, I also have the option at any time to create a security concept for myself in form of a Word or PDF file based on the chapters and checks I have selected. And today, however, I will focus on the functionalities related to the security monitoring. Once I've created the document, the first thing I have to do is I have to put in the systems that to maintain the table for the RFC connections to the systems. Which systems are checked in the end can be defined separately for each monitoring run, but basically I put in the name of the RFC connection via which the security architect can centrally perform the checks on the connected system. So I have here the RFC destination and some customizing options and information about the systems. I can, if I have many systems, it might be useful to group them. I can give the groups names, and you will later see why that's a good option. After maintaining the RFC connections, I can select the individual systems. I have here three groups for the development, quality, and production systems. And I've already prepared my selection. So I chose three systems, one development, one quality, and one production system here. And after I selected the systems, I define the so-called check scope. In other words, I select the checks that are to be performed on the previously selected systems. And what's important here is that although the checks are delivered by us with numerous default settings and recommendations, it can of course be useful to adapt the customizing to your own requirements. However, for a first run, and this will be the first run on that system, to get a feeling for the functionality, this is not necessary. So after I selected all the checks I want to perform, I can click on check and perform, check and show as a table. And as soon as our direct check run is completed, the check results are displayed in the tool. The rows list the respective checks I checked and sorted by the categories, and in the columns the checked systems are listed with the corresponding status in form of a traffic light. And if I now want to view the details of the checks, I can navigate to the detail view by double clicking on the traffic light, and I get the list for the critical profile check with all the users to which the SAP ERP profile, for example, in this case, is assigned. And since this is a development system, the authorizations usually tend to be very wide. And in this screen, I would now have the possibility to mitigate one or more lines. So I can accept a risk, for example, for a certain time. And if I do this, I have the possibility at any time to get an overview of all the risks I've accepted in the so-called mitigation cockpit, which is a separate transaction. Of course, we also have the option to of viewing the results of the checks in the Security Architect dashboard in form of a modern Fiori app. Just like in the SAP GUI, we start with an overview and then jump to the detailed view by various selection options. I will select here the authorization category. And after I've decided to look at the group of authorization checks on the start page of the dashboard, all checks from this group are listed here. And by selecting an individual check result, I then dive one level deeper into the more detailed view. For example, here again for the critical profiles. And I get the list here. And in my case, I can also see all users who have been assigned the SAP All profile on the system. At this point, a small tip: if you already have the Security Architect in use and are still missing the Fiori app, the Fiori app is delivered in a separate transport to ensure backwards compatibility of the XAMS transport. But you can easily request the transport by sending an email to support@xiting.com, and the colleagues will then provide you with the transport for the Fiori app in the download portal. So let's keep it simple up to this point. The Security Architect is the tool for performing regular compliance checks, and I can store my specifications in the system via the customizing of the total of around about 100 delivered checks and monitor my compliance. And on the one hand, the delivered customizing is based, for example, on the DSAG audit guide, but it has been supplemented, of course, by our experience from numerous projects. Now let's move on to the SIEM connector. The SIEM connector is a tool that complements the Security Architect, but with a slightly different focus. While the Security Architect, we identify the compliance violations and perform regular audits, for example, of our policies. And the SIEM connector is a tool for the real-time monitoring of my systems. And the use case here is to forward the logs and events as quickly as possible to a connected security information and event management system, or SIEM system. And there are two special features of the SIEM connector. First, in addition to the numerous logs available in the SAP system, we can access checks from our compliance monitoring, so from the Security Architects, and immediately report the results to the SIEM system. And secondly, with the new Service Pack 18, we are introducing the rule engine. I mentioned that that allows us to distinguish simple log data from real-time threats. And I will present what exactly is meant by that in a moment. So we get a little bit of a feeling how close the connection of the SIEM connector with the SIEM Security Architect is already by looking here in the menu structure of the XAMS menu. And we start with the customizing of the checks to be performed. So in this window, we define the scope of the SIEM checks, and in the SIEM connector itself, I can define which logs and which checks should be evaluated and transferred to the SIEM system, and how often. If I want a check to be permanently active, for example, and the data to be transmitted immediately to the SIEM system, I specify that in both of these lines. Yeah, and I can define how often I receive a notification about that thread by the repeat line. So, for example, if there are users with an assigned SAP All profile, I want to be informed immediately after the assignment of the profile. But if the check is running every minute, for example, I don't want to get the notification every minute. So maybe I would customize the check that the check runs every minute, but the notification is only sent once a day, for example. And we have the possibility to customize whether I want to have the details of the check or only the alert. Now, let's move on to the rule engine. The rule engine enables us to establish complex relationships between the different logs, the various log sources in the SAP system, and thus to detect threats immediately. For example, changing the user type of an IFC user to dialog user generates a log entry in the user's change log. And the user's log on via the SAP GUI generates an entry in the security audit log. And normally, both lines would be reported separately to the SIEM system with different timestamps. And at a first glance, none of those lines would pose a threat to my system. But the set of rules allow us to establish a connection between the two log entries and to report a specific alarm to the SIEM system. So an alert would look like a dialog on after user type change of a system user, for example. And now, how does this look in the system? Basically, if you have a SIEM system, you see that the events are sent to the SIEM system by the SIEM connector, and we see the specific alarms in the SIEM system. So the SIEM team can now react specifically to the alarm and initiate appropriate activities in response to the alarm. And because the question is asked every now and then, depending on the requirement, you have the option to decide whether only the alarms from the rule engine are reported to the SIEM system, or additionally all entries from the logs. And the first case would have the advantage that you often save license fees for the SIEM systems because of the much less events that are reported and transferred to the SIEM system. The second case, in which I transmit both events and the logs in real time, that would make forensics a little bit easier. So in summary, the SIEM connector is a complementary tool to the security architect. Up to now, it was primarily a matter of transferring various logs and events from the SAP system to the respective SIEM system. And with the rule engine, However, we now have the possibility to identify the real threats from the thousands of events in that SAP system. And as usual, we already deliver a set of rules that can be used directly. But of course, you always have the possibility to adapt the existing rules or to create new rules. The big advantage is that the SAP security team itself knows best the characteristics of an SAP system, and defining the rules in that team makes sense. One important thing to me at this point is the SIEM connector is not a SIEM system itself, but you have the possibility to connect the SIEM connector to many different SIEM systems. What next steps can I offer you now? First, we are happy to answer any questions you might have, and simply get in touch with us. This way we can talk together about the next steps. If an individual demo, for example, which honestly allows for a bit more interaction, makes sense, we'll be happy to make an appointment. And if you want to see the tools directly in your landscape, we can realize that as well. Within a workshop, we usually set up the tools in your SAP landscape and perform a first check, for example, of 1 or 2 or 3 systems. And this way you get a feeling of the handling and the way of working with the tools. And both tools can also be set up initially within the setting of a, for example, proof of concept workshop without direct connection to a SIEM system. And we can have a look at the logs and alerts that would be sent to the SIEM system. And we also regularly support the step-by-step creation and implementation of security concepts for our customers in the form of coaching sessions. And experience has shown that a more sustainable security concept can be implemented by taking a staggered approach, as the remediation of findings can be approached in a structured manner. So at this point, I'm curious to see what questions may have already been asked in the chat. Shelley, are you still there?
Yep, I'm here. No questions right now in the chat, but you did have a couple that had been given to you previous. Is it possible to connect the monitoring solution to the SAP Business Technology platform?
Yes, it will be possible to connect the SIEM connector to the Business Technology platform audit log, and even to the S4 Cloud audit log. And these features will be available with the Service Pack 18, which will be available, I think, in May or June.
Yeah. Okay. And one other one, will the connector support log data throughput for a large number of SAP systems from one central system?
Yeah. So basically, it is possible to connect a large number of SAP systems to the central instance, and we already have customers with large landscapes using, for example, the SIEM connector to connect the SAP systems with their SIEM system. And until now, there have not been any complaints about the throughput. But of course, as always, if there are some uncertainties, we always have the possibility to have some kind of proof of concept workshop and connect some systems to the central monitoring system, and the big advantage is you will have the opportunity to really test the solution in your landscape. Just let us know if you're interested, and we can get into more detail then.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Put in the question section. Otherwise, Andre, thank you very much for a good session about SIEM and Security Architect. I know I've had a lot of customers in the past that really could use these tools when audits come around and stuff. It's extremely helpful and automated and simplifies a lot of things. So thank you very much for the session. Remember, everybody, there will be 3 more sessions through March 16th. And again, the link for the registration is in the chat with a handout section on this go-to screen. You do need to register for each session separately to receive the link in the sessions. And then the recording after the session, once it's completed, again, it'll be about 24 hours after this session is ended that you'll get the notification for the link to the recording. If you do not receive an email or have any questions regarding today's session, please reach out to marketing@xiting.com or myself again, Shelly James at sjames@xiting.com. Let us know and we'll send it out again. Thanks everybody for your time today, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.